Hello, good afternoon. Good to see you guys. My name's Lyonella Cook, and I'm going to do a strié finish. Teach you guys how to do it. I'm gonna hopefully get some eyeballs. Oh, I got one. Okay, so today's finish is a strié, but specifically a plaid. But before we get started, let's get some of the business side out of the way. Today's code for today is Finish Friday 515. So if you like, share, comment, you'll be entered in for a drawing for all the products to get free product. And then also you'll get I believe 15 or 20% discount off what I use today. So I'm going to talk to you about what we're doing. So a lot of Strié has been around forever. It has background in Italian architecture in the word stria, and it's the pillars, those lines, straight. But we're going to go into a little more specific sect, and it's a plaid. Plaid is a general term. There's many different types of plaids. There's specifically 9 that are huge and 24 that are somewhat, and then the sky's the limit. So what I did was I took this old buffet. This was what I found this at a Catholic thrift locally, and I thought originally it was a chest, and I was like, oh, this is so cute, I'll grab it. Well, I got it back to my shop, and I realized this was a buffet that somebody cut the legs off of. And it's still so adorable, but what I realized, it was way too high of a profile to even be a storage bench, even if I tried to convert it, which I did attempt. And so I knew the finish had to be something different. I could never get it back to the original classical legs without spending a fortune and having legs perfectly turned and installed. And so I knew I wanted to make it something unique. And so I decided to go with a strié and a plaid finish. Again, today, if you guys are just joining, Finish Friday 515 to enter in for a drawing for free product, comment, like, share, and also you will receive a discount and you could get a discount on the products I use today. So I'm going to let you guys take a peek. This is the piece that I did, as you can see, and it's really unique. It's really funny, and it reminds me. I love Burberry, right? Isn't that? I think it's just a fantastic look, and that is a tartan plaid. So it's a very like Burberry is known for that. So we'll look at. I'll show you what that looks like. So like here's a bunch of different. So the sky's the limit on this, guys. You can do anything. And I like this designer. I follow her. I think she's fantastic. Sister Parish. She's very American classic, and she's got fantastic style. And there's something so comforting about a flannel or a plaid or a tartan or a Glen plaid or a gingham plaid or madras plaid, which is based originally from India. The history behind plaid and flannels and all of that type of fabrics is just fascinating. You can really get lost down a rabbit hole, but the tartan is really known. The Glen plaid, and I mean the houndstooth. These are all very familiar, very UK, but I love Scandinavian, and you'll always, one of my favorite designers, Lars Bolander, is a Scandinavian designer, and immediately you see these, and you see this type of pattern all over Sweden, all kinds of plaids, and so it's a very Northern European style too. So I'm gonna show you how to do it. I'm gonna go over the products we need. And it's you know what, this kind of would look amazing in like a nook for a reading room. You could do it on walls, you can do it on furniture. I'm a little non-committal, so I would rather paint than put a wallpaper up. So, and do it on furniture too. So, and it's a fun way to add a little interest into a really bland room. And it's great for nurseries, kids' rooms. I mean, a little mud room would be adorable with wainscoting or a bench. So just something fun that adds interest, looks like texture, but it's still paint. So what we're going to need today, I used Java, One Step. I used linen here. Glazed over is essential. You will need water. Now, I did it with cardboard, and I'm going to tell you, do not do it with cardboard. Unless you make like 50 of these, this is what happens. It starts to get mucked up by your paint, and so as you're going, and you can't really stop. So have time where you can complete this. If you're going to be done in a day as far as the strié part, but strié, and then it's a two day give or take process. But yeah, what I do recommend is squeegees from the dollar store. These were $1. These would have made my life a million times easier. And I did get them at the end. So learn from me, learn from my mistakes, and look at that. You make your own, it lasts, and you're not going to be cutting a million cardboard cutouts to complete your project. Okay. If you're doing walls, have a friend help you. It's really going to be essential to have someone keeping you straight as you go. Otherwise, you could end up veering off. And it doesn't have to be perfect, folks. What I love about traditional plaids and flannels is it's wool, it's handmade. There's a handmade feel to it. And so the same thing with the paint. If you want it perfect, go get a wallpaper. There you go. But otherwise, there's something very just innocent and sweet and loving about this type of pattern that you can create and add to your home or your client's home. I also, for the gel stains, I used English walnut and pine, antique pine, and I combined them together to get a really pretty rich brown stain, which I will show you. And then we always need clean slate. I can't just emphasize enough that you need to clean your piece. Make sure, because heaven forbid you do all this work and you didn't get something off, and then a check comes off and it's just so hard to repeat. So make sure you are you're cleaning your pieces really well. Also, for the actual finished top coat, I do recommend, especially if it's a high touch surface like this buffet, or if it's a bench, matte sealer. I will tell you a little trick. So if you want that matte finish, which is very desirable, but you want high protection, and you don't want to do cake and cake and cake of a matte sealer, do one of a gloss and then go over it with the matte sealer, 2 coats. Now you'll have a beautiful, sturdy matte finish. If you talk to any painter, they will tell you the higher the gloss, the more tough on the surface it is. So get that one gloss, go over it with 2 matte sealers. Now you're back to that beautiful matte finish. That's just a tip. And I learned that from hanging out in the paint studios with little old men. You're also going to need, for your staining, for your wood, make sure you have some sandpaper and dust attack cloth. Really important that you are level and we're keeping everything kind of straight. Remember, it's not perfect, but you want to try. So your levels. And you want to use, to start your pattern to get into a correct angle, this. You can use, if you prefer, you can do a pencil line and start really perfecting your lines, or you can tape it off, but we're not doing a buffalo check, and we want some of that fade into it, so we're not going to just tape. So that's just to keep your line straight. All right, so we're gonna get started. Really, it's actually pretty simple. It just takes a little practice. So be patient with yourself. There are do-overs. Life is a do-over. So, but this is so much fun and it's so cute. And we're gonna get started right now. I'm gonna turn you down. I'm gonna show you how we start. So before you even start cutting, I want you to think about your colors. It's really important that you are finding colors that are in the same color family. You could do one outlier. If you're doing a Madras, the Madras crazy pattern that you see like all the frat boys wearing during football games, you can be crazy with that color. But typically you want to stay in a color, monochromatic color range. You know, you can even add a little linen to the Java to kind of just calm it down a little bit. So, yeah. Also, before you start, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and once you figure out your colors, paint your base color, allow it to dry for 24 hours. If you do not let it dry for 24 hours, I promise you when you go to squeegee or glaze off, you're going to take your paint off. That paint needs to actually set. And in order to do that, I would do 24 hours. Paint doesn't cure in 24 hours, but at least it has some hardiness to it. So go ahead and 2 coats, let it dry 24 hours. That's going to be our board we're going to work on today. And now I'm going to turn you down. We'll get started with our cutout. So you could do this with graph paper. You want to figure out what kind of plaid or pattern you want to do. I would love to do a tartan, which is that Burberry pattern. So looking at it, we see, and I'm going to pull it so you guys can see this. This is the pattern we're going to go for. So you are going to cut the profile of your squeegee with the pattern, okay? And there's a couple different ways you could do it. It's really up to you. But what I do suggest is you look at your pattern and figure out the size of your piece, because you don't want to just haphazardly choose a pattern and then it's just doesn't work. So do you want big stripes? Do you want little stripes? Do you want to space out your striping, your strié? And if you decide that you just start doing your lines and you just want to do a strié, by all means, just do that then. So with that tartan, we have a line. And here, I'm going to keep it close to me so you guys can see. We're going line, line. I'm going to use this as a guide to where I want to put my lines. So then we see a repeating pattern of a space. And this is really the hardest part, guys, right here, is figuring out your pattern. So we have a space, then we come into, so we're going to cut that one in half, and then we're going to go in half. And if you don't pay attention, you could end up with a crazy pattern. So really, we're 1, 2, 3, and then here is a line again. We're going to go a straight line again, and then we're going 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, so typically, and then you're going to go through and you're going to say, okay, well, this is going to be a full flow line. So we're going to let this, it's going to push the paint on this one. So we're going to cut. And here we are going to leave this. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut this one. 1, 2, 3. We're going to cut from here to here, and then we're going to leave this open. And you're just figuring out your pattern. So that's pretty much how that goes. You're going to line up your squeegee to where you're going to cut. Now you're going to make sure you're using a pad because you don't want to mar your table up. So we're going to cut. We'll use your X-Acto or a box knife, and you're just going to go ahead and cut where we have our lines initially. Line. Can you guys see that? I'm just making sure, sorry. Line, all these lines here, and then we're going to cut out the part where the X's are, or where you want full color and where one will be blended. Okay, where it's going to get pulled through. And so I actually already cheated and I did it, but it's really not hard. You're just going to cut and then you're going to scoop it out, and you're going to cut down and scoop it out. And if you make a mistake, really guys, not a big deal. This is your pattern, and there are a myriad of different patterns you want to try. So now that you've got your squeegee cut, you can do 2, which I actually did with this piece behind me. And what I did here is, if you see this pattern, I did the inverse of it. Do you see the inverse? So I did the inverse. So when I do my vertical line, I come across with the horizontal line in that inverse pattern. So that's really up to you how you want to come up and approach that. We're going to pull out our, so go ahead and get your mixing containers together. If you are doing a wall, the mixture is a little bit different. But if you're doing a piece of furniture, I recommend that you lay it onto its side. And that way you don't have any running on it. And so we've already have our base color painted in the linen. So if you want to see what that linen is, that's that color we used here. Now we're going to use Java for our Strié. You want to use a lighter base and a little bit darker in the same chromatic color hue. Or if you're doing that, the crazy madras pattern, you could do different colors. It's really up to you. But so make sure you mix up your paint. We're going to do 1 part paint to 1 part glaze to 1 part water. So if you've done the tavertine before, it's very similar to the mixture for that. And so make sure we mix this up. We got our measuring cup. So we're going, let's go 2/3 here. All right. And then we're going to use our glaze. Make sure you really stir up that glaze because when it sits in the can, it will separate itself out. And that's another thing while you're doing this, make sure you are constantly agitating your mixture. So here we're going to do that. And we're going to add another 1 part. We're going to do 1 part glaze. All right. More. Sorry. Good. All right. Now have your water source, and you can play with this depending on the humidity, you know, the temperature of the day. You know, paint is funny. It really does. Now we'll add our water in. All right. And we really want to make sure everything is completely stirred in. This is very messy, so do wear gloves. We're going to mix that up. And you really want to stir for a couple minutes, set a timer. You want to make sure the glaze is really integrated into the paint. The water is fully, so, you know, everything is perfectly combined. And so now we're going to pull out our board while we continue to mix. And so when you apply your base coat, if you're doing a wall, guys, I want you to use a roller. Do use a roller. A roller, you could do a smooth, or you could do one that has like a slightly nap to it, not a heavy smooth finish roller. That way you're not, because you're on that vertical surface, and if you put too much paint on, it's going to run, especially as you start dragging through it. In this process, you're going to need rags. Make sure you have plenty of rags because you're going to have to wipe your squeegee as you go. All right, so we're fully mixed. And we are going to use a chip brush for this furniture. Or you can also use a sponge brush too. It's really up to you. And then, whoop, sorry. You want to work as wide as your squeegee. You don't really want to go beyond that and working with a wet edge. So here is our guy. We want to go about that distance. So go a little bit further. And if your surface is flat, remember it's a little bit kinder. I like to do my vertical lines first and then coming across with that horizontal pull. So we're going to take our squeegee like so. I should go a little bit wider. Sorry, guys. All right, so here, and now we are going to pull. You want to try to keep that edge on the edge, which is sometimes tricky. So this is where a ruler or something helpful would come, or somebody watching you, if you have somebody who likes to tell you what to do, a partner, a husband, a child. Perfect. So we're pulling that straight down. While it's still wet, we're going to come across. If it's a small piece, you can do the whole thing. But if it's something like this buffet, you really have to take a break. So I wiped it all off, starting at the top. And now we're going to pull this way. And now we're creating that pattern. If you wanted, you can keep pulling, but we also have the rest to do. So here we go. And we're lining up our pattern. So we see it's the 1, 2, 3. And we're coming to the edge. I do recommend the cardboard if, where am I with this? Here. Okay. So I'm lining it up so it stays consistent. Might change a little bit, but just keep going. And we can come back and fix it if need be. Okay. Now, if you feel like there's an error here, that's fine. You can go ahead and take an artist brush, and you're just going to gently come through here and clean up the one side of the line and push the paint to the other side. So there. And again, it's, it's a handmade process. You can always touch up little areas if you skipped. But let that dry down. You're going to finish and complete your process here. Now I'm going to do the other side using a little bit less glaze here with that different squeegee. Now, if you make a mistake and you really hate it and you want to redo it, take a rag with some water and go over it, and you can pull off that glaze before it starts to dry. All right. Okay. Just coming through a little bit less glaze on this one. That was pretty heavy glaze to there. Just kind of taking it off a little bit. Oh, I'm going to turn you here. There we go. All right, and we're going to take our squeeze. We're going to do a little bit of a different pattern this time. There we go. Okay, so we're going to use this one and lining it up. You're going to gently press. And this is so much easier than doing it with the cardboard. The cardboard was rough. Cardboard was really rough. So this is with less, and do you see what happens? When you do less, it actually starts to dry faster. So that's kind of the issue I ran into. Make sure your ratios are correct with water and glaze, and then just pulling across. And see, I actually like this one a little bit more. I like that it's more blended. This one is a little more closer to, what is that style? The traditional, I think it's called the gingham check. So it has a little more blending. Do you see how the lines, there's a variation in color here. So I think that's really pretty. But yeah, so continuing, because I'm not paying attention. All right. And here we go. Coming here. And you know what would be really fun is if you added just one line of color. So it looks very much like that tartan finish. But that's really it, guys. So remember, less glaze, you're going to get more of a blending pattern. More glaze, you're going to get a more striking pattern here too. So it's really up to you how you want to do that. When this is dry, we are going to do a seal. We're going to seal it with matte sealer. I do recommend, if you're just going to do matte sealer, I would recommend 2 coats of matte sealer. You don't want to lose your print on this. And that's really it. I mean, you could do all different kinds of colors, add different colors in, and create a piece that's really neat. Now we're going to talk about the glaze here. And I don't think we talk about enough of the prep that we need to do. So when you're going to prep a piece of wood that is just like this, do you see already? We already start to have surfactants on it. It's already been marred up. What you need to do is before you even sand it, I want you to clean it with clean slate. Because if you were to just sand this piece of wood with dirt and grease on it, all you're doing is taking that sandpaper and spreading it now all the way all around. So I always clean it before you sand. And that way you're sanding a clean piece of wood. Kind of like there. So whoops, clean that off really well. Really getting all that dirt off. Let that dry for a second. This stuff dries really fast, so you don't usually have to typically wait too long. And there you go. All right, you're gonna take your sandpaper and see how that, you wanna get that off. .220 grit is good. Just you don't want to go higher than 220 before you stain a piece of wood because you close the grain even with a gel stain. The gel stain isn't a like a natural deep set stain. It's a surface stain, but when you close the grain, you prevent the wood from absorbing. So don't go beyond 220, and I would stay at 220. All right, so now you've got a really nice clean surface that should stain very nicely. We're going to use a chip brush. Before you do that, always take off what you just sanded though. Using a tack cloth, this is just a good habit to get into to make sure you have taken everything off. See, look at that. Get all that out. Perfect. And now we will mix the gel stain. And so with this piece, what I did, and I'll show you when I'm done, it had some aged knobs on it, which I kept the original knobs. I'm just gonna use this. I kept the original knobs on it because I don't know. I have an affinity for old looking stuff. So I kept the knobs. The knobs are pretty patinaed, so I wanted to match it. So we're going to start with the lighter stain first, because it's harder to go lighter after you've gone dark. So here, I used that's about 2 tablespoons, and then I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of that walnut, and just kind of mixing it. And you're going to get a really pretty aged looking pine, oxidized pine. Look how pretty that is. It still has like that nice hue to it. Really mixing it up well. I'm putting it in this container because I want to use it again. I don't want to waste it. So, and then we'll just apply it with this. Now, when you do stain, you can leave this on, this gel stain. It will almost dry like a paint, or you could take it off with a cloth. Or if you want a full range stain, to get the brush marks off, I would use a sponge brush if you want to get that off. But that's really up to you. So I'll show you with that. And you can come back and repeat if it's not dark enough after it dries. Repeat the stain again to get a more rich color. But I really do love that color. That's really pretty. It's just got a hint of brown in it. And then when you are done, seal your piece. You could do it with wax. You could do mind your own beeswax. You could do the matte sealer if you like, but that really is up to you. How much luster you want on your wood, or if you want a dead flat finish, that is really what a predictor for yourself. But that's really pretty. You can come back, make it darker, and I'll show you how dark I made it on this. So here we go. So here is our Strié plaid. And then see, these were the original knobs. And so when I replaced the legs, I wanted to match, can you see that, guys? I wanted it to match the knobs, which I think they actually did. So really pretty piece. It's a unique piece. It's interesting. It's not your typical, but very classic. So, but thank you so much for watching today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask down in the comments. Thank you for joining me. And I can't wait till next week. I have a real fun project for you guys. You're going to get a kick out of it. So happy weekend. And remember the Finish Friday 515 to get anything you guys see here that we used and enter that drawing. So take care. Bye.